I installed my second Panthera Motorsports electric starter, this time on the custom 87 Quadzilla. So I wanted to make a video of the installation. Hopefully it'll help anybody else that is considering adding one of these electric starters to their Quadzillas. Alright, so you saw me unbox the kit, so I'll do a quick run through on what's included. You have the aluminum cover. This is your starter motor. Inside of here, your crown gear and your intermediate gear. You have your main ring gear. This is the bolt, and you have a bearing there. I'm going to flip this over. You also have a bearing, and this bolt, once installed, will actually ride right inside there in that bearing, which gives extra support to your crank. You have your replacement gasket. You have a battery box, starter solenoid, wire harness, your push button. You have your battery jumper wire. You have a voltmeter. You have a vent hose. You have your torquing tool for torquing down your flywheel bolt. Cable cover ends, which one will go here and the other goes here on the ground wire. Some Velcro, some more Velcro, and a little bit of padding, and the case mounting hardware. I already have my flywheel and stator cover removed. Part of the ordering process is Panthera wants you to send a picture of your flywheel. Suzuki made 2 different flywheels for the Quadzilla, and they have to match up that flywheel gear to the specific flywheel that you have. So I already have that cover removed. Next, I'm going to start removing all the plastics. I detached the fuel line from the carburetor. I'm going to remove the gas tank. I'm going to set this aside. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to work on is remove flywheel cover, which has already been done. Next, you're going to remove the flywheel, and you're going to want to clean out this entire area. Now, in order to remove the flywheel, you need to use this flywheel removal tool. And I'll put a link in the description where you can pick this up. It was fairly cheap. I'll show you how this goes on. I'm going to screw this out. And then you're going to thread this onto the flywheel. The thread's on counterclockwise. Make sure you thread it in as far as you can, finger tight. Comes right off. Next, I'm going to remove the stator. I'm going to use an impact, less of a chance of stripping it out. Next, you just want to make sure that your gasket surface is clean. Alright, so I have my line sealed up with this Loctite Ultimate silicone stator back in. Get some Loctite on these screws. In case you haven't been in here before, you have a little timing mark on your stator right there that aligns with another timing mark that's on your case. Just make sure that they're lined up. Next, we're going to be installing the main gear onto the flywheel. And these two pins on the main gear will align with these two pins on the flywheel, and it sits together just like that. Flywheel, and I'm going to align it with the key. Flywheel bolt on. And this gets torqued down to 70 foot-pounds. They provide this torque tool that goes on the end of a socket handle, torquing this down to 70 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued down, I'm going to check and make sure that this rotates freely clockwise and locks counterclockwise. So next we're going to be installing the starter housing. First thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the starter motor. I'm going to remove this gear cover as well and remove the two gears that are in there. Here's the starter motor. You have a rubber seal here, starter motor gear. I'm going to use the gasket that they provided. I'm going to put the gasket in place. And now we're going to secure the housing. Now they provide new hardware. You have a total of 5 bolts. 4 are the same size and 1 is longer. The longer bolt goes to the inside of the gear cover. In this location right here. Now once the cover is tightened down, you want to check the gear and make sure that it's still spinning freely. Now the instructions have a note before moving on to the next step. It says to confirm the proper installation, measure the distance of the ring gear face to the gasket surface of the small gear cap. So the ring gear, which is the main gear on the flywheel, to this gasket surface should be between 24 and 26 millimeters. So I have my caliper. I'm going to go ahead and do this measurement. There. 26 millimeters. 26 millimeters. Now I'm going to put the starter in place. I'm not going to tighten these starter bolts yet because one of these is going to be used as a grounding point. I'm going to install the intermediate gear and the crown gear. I'm not going to tighten these down either because to open this back up, fill this with oil in a later step. Alright, next we're going to be working on the installation of the battery box. So I changed the view of the camera. It's going to be positioned right here. But before I mount this battery box, because of my battery setup, I need a little bit extra space in here. So I need to relocate this solenoid to the bottom side. Alright, so I got that relocated to the bottom. That's how it looks, using the same mounting hole. Alright, so what I'm realizing is that this light bracket is blocking where this is supposed to mount. My other Quadzilla had a DG grab bar in the back and that didn't get in the way. But this one This is getting in the way, so I'm gonna have to cut this off. Maybe move it back, re-weld it in a little bit further back. All right, so I was able to cut this part of the rear subframe off. It was right here. I cut it off and I ground it down, smoothed it out. So with that bracket off, now I found another piece that needs to be modified. You'll see that this part of the frame that protrudes won't allow this to push up and align. So this is going to have to be trimmed out just like that on both ends in order to get that to go into place. I don't know if this is an aftermarket rear grab bar or if this is stock. I'm not sure. My other Quadzilla had a DG bar on it that was flat stock. It wasn't tubed. This part was just flat metal and everything worked okay. All right, so I trimmed that section of the bracket down a little bit, right there and right there. Deburred it. Now let's test fit it. All right, so after some cutting, I was able to get the battery box on here. You can see under there where I had a cut there on that side and right up there. There, you can see my cut. I'm gonna make a bracket that mounts to here and here that comes down this way, and the light will sit right there. Now I'm going to give the batteries a test fit. They fit in there perfectly. Now I'm going to work on the routing of my wire harness. So my plan is to have it run along here, and it's going to go under this bracket, through here, underneath here, this bracket, and then the parts that need to go down to the starter and then the wires that need to go to the switch will run along with this one over to my ignition switch. Now we're going to start wiring up the batteries. The first battery is going to go in with the terminals facing forward. Has a protective cap on here. You can see you have access to these terminals right there. The second battery is going to be installed terminals to the back, just like that. Now the voltmeter, the way that it's designed, I guess they want you to just hook it up to the battery permanently, but then it just sits there and runs and slowly drains the battery. So I have this little push button switch that I'm going to put in line here. I'm going to cut this wire, solder this in line. I'm going to drill a hole right there, and that switch is just going to be mounted downward, so when I want to view the voltage, I can just hit that toggle switch. And the voltmeter I'm going to mount right there. Okay, batteries are all wired up. Have a jumper wire here, main ground, main power, and push the button. The voltmeter powers up, 25.2 volts. Next, I'm going to be installing the case vent tube. Now this is a very long tube, and it's long for a reason. They want this to be routed in an upward position. Previous owner had mounted the vent hose from the crankcase up here and attached it to the frame. So I'm going to run this vent right alongside that one, and then I'll trim off the excess at the end. Now that everything's hooked up, I'm just going to do a quick push of the starter, see if we have power. That looks good. All right, now for the first start. Alright, so I got it fully back together. As always, thank you for watching my video. If you like the content and the information that I provide, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more great projects on the Jeep, the Corvette, the Quadzillas, and other projects around the house. I do my best to make these videos to make it easier for you in the future if you're working on similar projects.